Every year, Peter dreaded one day, the day he had to bring Lois a salad. It was a promise he'd foolishly made in their wedding vows. A sad, limp fast food salad, barely saved by the scent of nearby chicken nuggets. He threw in a fresh newspaper as a proof of effort and whispered, "I love Lois" like a spell to survive the evening. His friends, loud and childish, cracked jokes, mostly about the salad, and how seductive dinner could be when it started with lettuce and regret. Peter was troubled by something else. His friend Joe never laughed at his jokes. It ate at him. He'd see Joe chuckle at Cleveland's nonsense, but when Peter tried, nothing. Silence. Even when he shared the most ridiculous photos like eviction notices taped to a toilet, Joe gave him nothing. Just one, ha-ha, would have been a win. It never came. Peter tried to brush it off, but the doubt kept growing. He started comparing himself to others. Even Johnny, the unofficial class clown. It stung to feel like his humor didn't land. Secretly, he vowed revenge. No more laughing at Joe's messages, not even a pity emoji. Once he accidentally tapped a heart on one of Joe's jokes, panicked, switched it to a thumbs up and felt completely exposed. Even the bathroom air seemed to mock him with invisible echoes of laughter. Finally, Peter couldn't take it anymore and asked Joe directly why he never laughed at his jokes. Joe answered honestly, without any malice. He just didn't find Peter all that funny. The truth stung, but it also opened Peter's eyes. He realized he simply didn't match Joe's sense of humor, and there was nothing he could do about it. So he stopped trying to impress Joe and saved his best material for those who actually laughed. Still, he refused to give up. Peter promised himself he'd get a genuine reaction out of Joe, no matter what. He dressed up as a spy and broke into Joe's house, all for the sake of comedic effect. But things quickly spiraled out of control. Peter ended up caught in one of Joe's traps. He tried to escape but tumbled down the stairs. Joe saw right through him, and because of the stunt, Peter landed in the hospital with serious leg injuries. After 14 hours of surgery, multiple bandages, and a diagnosis that forced him to stay in the hospital for several more weeks, Joe finally sent the long-awaited emoji. They both admitted they had taken things too far. Joe with his silence, Peter with his stubbornness. Sometimes the need to be understood and accepted outweighs common sense. Peter realized that friendship isn't always about laughing at each other's jokes. Sometimes it's just about being there, even if it means standing with a cane and a $3,000 hospital bill per night. In an ordinary house, family life went on as usual from the morning. The children discussed school, and although many things seemed mundane, the atmosphere was filled with a certain strangeness. It all started when the mother asked the children how their day at school had been. But instead of a simple answer, the conversation turned odd and somewhat absurd. The children mentioned a backup hooligan, who, according to them, couldn't do anything right. And then it became clear that the rehearsed phrases on the paper for the teachers caused confusion. Additionally, it became known that everyone had to sign some important papers for the upcoming school trip to Washington. It turned out that instead of the usual teachers, the trip would be chaperoned by Chris and Meg's mother, Lois Griffin, who was planning to bring her own strange and absurd ideas into the situation. She claimed she was going to be the cool mom, but her excessive confidence and naivety immediately caused discontent among the children. She handed out candies and tried to do everything she could to get the kids to see her as the cool mom. However, her efforts were not very successful. Lois tried to connect with the kids at the pool by telling them how she got her new swimsuit. But as soon as she started her story, the kids, clearly not understanding what she was trying to do, silently turned around and left. Soon, old memories begin to surface in the conversation. Shepard decides to share the story of his first love, Lois, a story about how he once worked at a store and met a woman named Shelley Barnes. He was crazy about her. They got together and opened a failed Taco Bell Pizza Hut, which became the source of many of his life's misfortunes. These memories intertwine with her current emotions, as she still can't let go of her own failed love. Soon, everyone's attention shifts to the disappearance of the school principal, Shepard. He vanishes during the trip, causing widespread concern. The students, overtaken by panic, begin searching for him. A discussion even breaks out on the bus about who could take over driving if the principal is no longer present. The inexperienced and overly nervous principal runs away, leaving behind a trail that Lois and the kids decide to uncover. In their search for him, they encounter a series of strange situations, and it soon becomes clear that Shepard had been searching for his lost love, Shelley Barnes, whom he had once broken up with over the failed Taco Bell Pizza Hut venture, which led to a tragic incident in their lives. Everything happening on and around the bus raised more questions than answers. The kids, despite their dislike of the situation, had to put up with it. Eventually, the bus continued on its way, but the atmosphere inside remained strange and absurd. It turns out that Principal Shepard hadn't actually run away. He had just played a little prank to divert attention from what really mattered: his upcoming reunion with his former love, Shelley. Shepard decides to seek forgiveness and reconciliation, despite all his past failures. His journey leads to a meeting with Shelley, who seemingly has moved on with her life, in spite of her past mistakes and unfulfilled dreams. In the end, it turned out that Shelley lived in the house next door, but the conversation with her ended with a candid confession. Her life hadn't turned out the way she had expected, and her attempts to open a Taco Bell Pizza Hut restaurant had also ended in failure. Ultimately, the principal, having failed to mend the relationship, is forced to confront a difficult truth. The past he had once romanticized is, in fact, far more complicated, messy, and painful than he had ever allowed himself to believe. What he thought would be a moment of closure or rekindled connection instead becomes a sobering reminder of missed chances, unresolved regrets, and the weight of choices that can't be undone. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel.